All right, everybody. Thanks for coming back. Something I've been thinking about. There's a lot of times you can only imagine when I'm sitting there driving or I'm sitting there at work, at my desk over there in my bedroom, let's be honest, or on an appointment, and I'm always thinking. I'm always thinking about something, and then I think of something, I think, whoa, that's something I gotta talk about. This is a pretty cool thing. And a lot of times I'm sure it's stuff that, very common knowledge, but just my own thoughts on it. And the thing I wanted to talk about today is, I have heard this before. When you start coaching or teaching, that there's something that happens and you just become really good at your craft. And it's like, what switch gets flipped? When somebody goes from average or okay, but passionate, of course, about their line of work, their sport, their craft, and then they go and they teach because they are passionate about it, and they become really good. I mean, I remember some of the coaches that I had would just whoop on me. And, of course, there's a factor of after they got done being an athlete, they worked and learned of their craft for 10 to 20 years plus afterwards. So obviously they've been working at it a really long time. But I was at practice on Friday. So on Fridays at Chicago MMA here, in Chicago, I teach an MMA class. It's MMA 101. And it's, I haven't had a whole lot of fights. I've had, maybe 6 fights. And of course for like the general person that's looking to learn MMA just to learn, they're a fan, and they want to come get exercise or whatever, sure, like I feel like I'm a good person, but of course a lot of my expertise comes from wrestling because that's what was my original martial art. And I am teaching, and somebody asks me a question. And they say, oh, well, what would I do in the situation if he stood up? So the example that I was giving, for anybody that hasn't wrestled, this isn't going to mean anything to you. But when you're on top of somebody, you'll get a tight waist, so you wrap around their belly just like this. And then you'll get a claw ride, which is you take this, like a claw, and you put it around their neck. And this is exactly what it looks like, but you're not hugging yourself, you're behind them. And what'll happen sometimes is somebody will stand up. And he said, well, what happens when they stand up and you still have this? And something I haven't thought about in years is when you have that pressure from your right hand, I'll try to explain this for anybody who's listening on the podcast rather than the YouTube channel, is when you put your right hand under their right armpit and you go over and grab their neck and you have the tight waist with your left hand wrapped around their stomach and they stand up, that lever that you have here is so tight. And I just say, oh, well, you just take your left hand, you put it in between their legs, and you pull the leg and you pull the head down, whoop, and you do like a lift and return. And I was like, whoa. I haven't thought about that in at least 5 or 6 years. But when people are asking you questions, it's because when you have like an athlete or a person that's working, and then you have, let's say, the leader or the coach, there's 2 different things happening here. And I've talked about this in a podcast before where I explained how when I go to coach versus going to compete, I have to go to practice because I'm thinking about what I'm going to be teaching. I have to go there with no radio, silence. When I go there to compete, I have the score radio on, so I'm getting myself hyped up. I'm getting myself in a mindset to perform. Even if I'm going there to learn, I'm going there with a mindset to learn and to perform and just to get better. And when you're at that practice or somebody's teaching you something, you're not thinking necessarily. You are, but not the way that you're asking the coach to think. When they say, hey, what do I do in this situation? They're requesting you to think as the coach. You're doing a lot more thinking than you are doing. And there's that saying where it says, those who can't do, teach. And I was always like, that's interesting because, like, obviously they can do, they've been doing this sport, but, sometimes for those that maybe don't do as well, but they can think better, those are the coaches. And I remember example, one of my college wrestling coaches, Mike Derone, he graduated from college. I think he said he was like a 500 wrestler. I'm not really too sure. But just like an average wrestler, right? An average college wrestler. And he goes to this like open tournament after college. And I don't know if he was coaching at this point in time, but I'd be interested, maybe if he listens to this, he could shoot me a message. And when he got done with college competition, he wrestled this person who was like a Division I athlete, really good wrestler, and he ends up beating him in overtime. And people came up to him and said, hey, do you know who you just beat? And he's like, I don't know. And he ends up beating this really high caliber wrestler that wrestled 2 divisions in regards to like Division 3, 2, and 1 above him. And I'm curious to know if, of course that was after his college career, but it came with a mix of not so much do, but more think, I'm guessing. I could be wrong. And I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was at work. I was at my desk over there, right? I was at my desk, and every morning, so you guys know I have a personal assistant that I hired on. Right now she's part-time. We're really close to getting her full-time. But in the mornings, let's say 8 to 9, I will create training videos. I will create a bunch of text, all the information that she needs so she can do. And no lie, I think yesterday I was doing about 2.5 hours of training videos, coaching her through what she needs to do, because I've done it 1,000 times, right? Anything that we're doing in my line of work with real estate, I've done it. Now it's just figuring out how we can do it more efficiently, help more customers, and make more money. So I'm sitting there, my brain starts to hurt. I'm like, why does my brain hurt so much? Maybe I should just do this myself. But that's the challenge. There's this quote where people say, if you want to do it faster, do it yourself. If you want to go farther, you do it together. So the challenge for me is I've been doing real estate for 4 years now. Of course, I had a different side of the business where I was in the leasing side of the business before switching over to sales, but nonetheless, I've been doing it now for, has it been 4 years? Has it been 5 years? I don't really know. But the challenge became where I'm switching over from being a doer to being a teacher. And at one point I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop the video. I wanted to stop typing out. I wanted to stop explaining. I wanted to stop answering questions because my brain was just tired. Because if you think about all the coaches or the teachers that you've had in your life, they're on the sideline. But when they're watching and they're figuring out how you can do it better while you're doing, your actions aren't always, I'm doing like a high crotch, like I'm going to take somebody down. When you're doing, you're not necessarily always using this. And so like when your coach or your teacher's on the sideline and they're training you or they're teaching you, like they have this abundant amount of information. And you're going to them as a platform. So here's an example of platforms. Is my buddy Devin, let's say. Devin's probably like, he's such a cool dude, and he runs a real estate team in Hawaii. And he's absolutely killing it. Whenever I can steal little nuggets of information from him, I definitely do. It's a weird balance because he's actually my best man. Devin is my best man. Devin Tryon. You guys have heard me talk about him a lot, and it's he's a really good friend of mine, and so there's times where I do ask him, and I do use him as a platform, but but I also want to balance that where he's my friend. I don't want to call him to talk to him about real estate. I want our relationship to be that. I don't want it to be a platform, because I want to keep those worlds separate. But I'm going to use him as an example. So I'm managing my transactions, right? Usually I could do it in my brain, but it's getting to the point now where I'm fortunate enough to where I have enough deals under contract where I cannot. Remember, you can't run off the brain, my friends. You gotta have systems and procedures set in place. And he told me about one of his transaction management systems. And the thing about it is, you will be doing something a certain way. Not because it's the best way, but because it's the way you know and it's comfortable. And he said, oh, well, so I'm using Trello. I like Trello. I spent a lot of time in it. I've invested in it. And he's like, oh, I use Monday.com. It's better than Trello. You should use it. Just sign up for it. I'll send you my platform for my transaction management. You can literally download it and have it. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I like, in my head, I'm thinking, I just worked on this. I like this. It works for me. No, stop. Stop, Edward. Don't even do it. That's like telling your wrestling coach who's been teaching wrestling for 20 years and you've been wrestling for 2. I like this. The way I do it here, I like this. Yeah, but if we look at the numbers, you've lost 10 matches in a row and you've only been doing this for 10 years. Maybe you could listen to me. Think about the people who've been doing it, who've been thinking, right? Not always doing, even if people do it great. The people who think great might be the people you need to listen to. So, against my own will, not my own will, but my destructive thoughts of not wanting to listen to them. Of course, I message them and say, hey, I signed up for Monday.com. When you already send me the platform, what you use, I'm willing to take it. And a platform is somebody who is just, they're levels above you, and you just need to all you need to do is to do. And they've done the thinking for X amount of years, longer than you. It's not your job to think. So when I was thinking about the differences between, what it's been like for me to work in real estate, doing for the amount of years that I've been working in my line of work, and then to see that, starting to get to the point where I spend X amount of hours a day just thinking, because when you have to think about something, when you have to teach it, you have to revisit all the things you've ever done. And what does that do? It teaches yourself once again. You do repetitions of it in your mind over and over and over again, because you have to figure out how you can explain it to where this person can understand it. And I'm starting to get that in my line of work, and I love to teach. I absolutely love it. Of course, I love to compete, and I'm sure once I get to the point in time where maybe my business is a little bit more self-sufficient, I won't do anything other than to teach, to provide, to give resources, and I'm really excited about that. So if you have somebody where, let's say you're at the beginning stages of whatever you're doing, finding somebody who specifically thinks about things. If somebody is past the stage of doing and they want to teach, they need someone like you so that they can think about their craft to provide you that information. It's kind of a cool win-win situation. And of course, if you're on somebody's team for whatever line of work that you do, then of course there's the 50-50 where you give back by doing. and maybe you're an athlete and you're trying to find somewhere to learn. It's such a privilege to have a coach, to have a teacher, just as if they feel privileged to have you to teach to, because that's their passion. To have somebody who's got X amount of years of just like thinking about their craft is invaluable. And for those that are maybe thinking about teaching, it's not, just like I've started to learn in the past couple months since I've been coaching, training, and teaching the new person that I'm working with. It's definitely taken some work, but I feel super honored. So I hope you guys didn't mind me ranting about that too much. I appreciate you always coming here to listen so that I can teach you about what's been going on in my days. And if there's ever any topics that you want to go over, you have questions about, of course, you're always willing to, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below, or you can shoot me a message on Instagram. It's at Edward Terres. I usually just make goofy videos there and, talk about disc golfing and wrestling and just, random stuff. I don't talk about a whole lot of business anymore on there. But I love you guys. I'll see you on the next episode.